A warm good afternoon to everyone here. Uh, Today's workshop on emotional baggage will be taken by me, Liz John Ramapuram, and my colleague Yadvi Jain. I have my expertise in relationships and anxiety, and Yadvi has her own set of skills, which she will be introducing herself later. But yeah, we at Mindtrap, we are extremely pleased to welcome you all to this workshop on a Saturday afternoon. Let's talk about, before we start the workshop, there are a few notices that we have to give. This is a legal notice that this presentation is copyrighted by Mindtribe, and video recording of this workshop is not permitted, and you are not permitted to take photographs or screenshots of any of the slides. Kindly know that we have a few guidelines set in place. We would ask all of you to keep your mics muted unless you are asking your question. But please note, if you have a question to ask, you raise your hand and Yadvi will call out your name and then you can ask your questions. But just if it would be great if you could keep your questions for the end of the workshop so that there is no disruption in flow. Kindly keep your cameras off as it interferes with the quality of the video. Feel free to ask questions in the chat box at any time, and do keep something ready, a pen and a paper for note taking, or there are a few quizzes that we have over here for you to be able to have an interactive session with us. Thank you. These are what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about what emotional baggage actually is, how do we identify the signs of emotional baggage, and what are the types of emotional baggage, how our emotional baggage impacts our current life, and how to deal with the same. But before we go on, I have a few questions for you. And I would request all of you to have, like I mentioned earlier, pen and a paper ready so that you can answer these questions and you can take note of what your answer is. First question is, when it comes to situations that remind me of negative experiences, we have three choices here. A is I avoid or shy away from these situations. B is I am not very aware when these situations happen or I brush them under the rug. C is I try my best to face them head on whenever possible. Please choose the option A, B, or C and we will move on. I can give you 5 seconds. Thank you. We're gonna go to question number 2. When I see something uncomfortable that I'm worried will affect me emotionally. Option A is I immediately, either consciously or unconsciously, put up an emotional wall so I will not feel the full impact. B, I don't notice when these are about to happen. And C, I do what I can to prepare. Then I deal with the impact by taking care of my feelings or the situation. Again, another 5 seconds for you guys to answer. All right, we shall move on to the next question. When it comes to trusting people, A, my philosophy is that people aren't trustworthy unless they have truly proven to be so. B, when it comes to trust, I don't pay much attention. C, I do my best to be open, but will put my guard up as needed if someone appears to be untrustworthy. All right, I hope you have those answers ready with you. We will be scoring them and interpreting them a little later. So let's go on to what exactly emotional baggage is. So all of us would have had to go through some sort of situation that would have caused us some uneasiness or some pain in our past, right? And then we become very wary of such a situation in our present, such that our response to how this particular circumstance of the situation is very different from how it was earlier. So what I explained is in very layman terms, but the phenomenon of carrying past trauma or the negative experiences that we face in life, and can be throughout life. It doesn't mean that emotional baggage or trauma is something that happens only in childhood. It can even happen during adolescence, a young adult life, middle age, and geriatric life. So when these negative experiences, the trauma that we feel when we are going through these negative experiences, if we carry them through the rest of our lives and if it affects our relationships or career, then we can say that this is our emotional baggage. And again, please keep in mind that you are not alone. You might think that no one will understand me, or I overreacting? Is this just a me problem? Everyone carries some unprocessed emotions from experience to a certain degree. However, the extent to which people tend to react to these unpleasant feelings is again very different from each person. And the emotions that aren't dealt with don't just go away. We have to deal with these emotions. We cannot just brush it under the rug and say, oh, I'm okay. Right? So, this degree to which we haven't taken charge of dealing with our emotions, that is proportional to how much emotional baggage we carry. A few other questions for you guys. Again, please take note of the options. If I am dealing with other people and they push my buttons or stir up old emotions, A, I run away or distance myself completely. B, I ignore it or distract myself. C, I do my best to educate myself and the other person if possible so that we can both be conscious and cautious about it. I'll give you guys 5 seconds to answer. Next question. When thinking about myself and emotional health, A, I view myself as damaged, troubled, or in a place where my feelings would be hard to repair. B, I don't evaluate my emotional health. C, I see my strengths and weaknesses. I try to focus on improving what I can. And the next question, the emotional baggage that was caused by other people in my life makes me feel A, resentful, angry, and or emotional towards them. B, I don't even want to think about that. C, no matter what I am feeling, I do my best to understand it and heal so I can move forward in a healthier way. 5 more seconds. Okay, the reason why I asked you to take a note of your answers was for the scoring. So, for every question that you marked the option A, please give yourself 3 points. Option B holds 2 points, and option C holds one. So please mark yourself. I shall give you 10 seconds to do the same. Yes, I see two people have raised their hand. Angeline, would you like to go?
Ma'am, could you please show question number 1, 2, and 3? I think you went a little fast.
Oh, okay. I shall do question 1, 2, and 3. All right. Question number 1 is when it comes to. Okay, you can read it and let me know once you're done. Can I move on?
Yeah, they've sent a thumbs up.
Okay. This is question 2. Shall I move on?
Yes, next.
And this is question 3.
And fourth question was about the impact, right?
I can show you the fourth question again. Here you go. Shall I move on?
Yeah.
And if you need, do you need question 5 and 6 as well?
No, I'm okay.
All right. So I'm hoping by now the rest, all of you have been able to score your questions. I shall wait another 15 seconds for everyone to finish, and then I shall proceed. Can y'all give me a thumbs up if you think I can proceed? Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So, this is going to be the interpretation of the scores that you have received. Again, this is just for you to know. This is for your knowledge. Please keep it to yourselves. The people who have scored 1 to 6, you are aware of your emotional baggage. People with scores 7 to 12, as per the scale, you tend to avoid your emotional baggage. And people with scores 13 to 18, you have been negatively dealing with the emotional baggage. This is just for you to know, for you to understand where you are at. I hope everyone got that. Great. All right. Yeah, we take over, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Yadvi here. I'm also a full time counselor at Mind Tribe, and my expertise mostly lies in emotional regulation, relationships, and anxiety. So, we're gonna have a quick ad break here. Just like those moments on YouTube when a quick ad pops up, we have a short ad break. It'll be super quick and beneficial. So, just stay tuned. Next slide. So let's dive in. What exactly is one on one counseling? It's a personalized, confidential chat between you and a trained therapist. Imagine having someone who really listens, understands you, and helps you figure things out. The benefits are personal growth, solving problems, setting goals, and boosting your mental well being. It's like having a personal coach for your mind. Now, let's bust a big myth. Many people think that counseling is only for those who are unwell, and that's simply not true. Counseling is for anyone who wants to be their best self. If you want better relationships, there's counseling. If you want more friends, counseling. A spot in your dream college or job, counseling can help you with all of that. It's about making the best version of yourself. Next slide. Yeah. So, why choose Mind Tribe for counseling? First of all, counselors are super talented here. We are super affordable, and we have sessions that range from either just 500 to 5,000. And guess what? Your first session is absolutely free. Once you're comfortable, you can choose from our affordable packages. Empowering minds, transforming lives. That's what we do at Mind Tribe. Do you have any urgent questions? So before we jump back into our main presentation, if you have any urgent questions about counseling, now's your chance to ask. We're here to help. You can go ahead. Yes, Sanap. These sessions are, we have three options for the sessions. Either you can do a quick video meet or an audio call or a phone call, but they're all online. Yes. Any other questions? Okay, looks like we don't have any other questions. No, sorry, we don't offer text therapy. That's simply not something. Privacy is maintained because the online sessions are not usually recorded. That's just between you and the counselor, and they can actually inform you about the whole consent in during the sessions part. But yeah, none of the sessions are recorded, and it's everything is just between you and the counselor. I hope that answered your question. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, let's move on. So now we're all wondering, how do we identify the signs of emotional baggage, right? Um, so here are a few signs in which you can figure out whether you actually have emotional baggage or not, because we might not be aware of it sometimes. First sign is a lack of trust in relationships. Emotional baggage can cause constant doubt in your partner or others' intentions, leading to insecurity, and you will have difficulty forming meaningful connections most of the time. Second is feeling guilty and full of regret. So sometimes when you have lingering emotional baggage, you might keep thinking about past actions or past words that you've said to people. And that can really prevent you from moving forward. Unaddressed fear and anger. Suppressed emotions like fear and anger can resurface unexpectedly at random times, and it can make it hard to maintain emotional balance in everyday situations. Avoiding responsibilities, past wounds, emotional wounds can lead to procrastination or avoidance, as individuals struggle to cope with making everyday duties or decision making. Last sign would be comparing yourself to others. This is something that I think most of us do. It can fuel feelings of inadequacy, making us constantly measure ourselves with other people, because we're always, feeling anxious or fearful. We are carrying a lot of emotional wounds. And you will always feel like, okay, I'm falling short of something, I'm not doing enough. So these are some signs that can indicate that you have emotional baggage. Moving on.
Thank you, Advi. I hope all of you would have maybe noted down what could possibly be the signs just for your awareness. We're going to go to the next topic of this workshop. What are the types of emotional baggage? There are five main types of emotional baggage, and this is baggage that you really do not need to carry, and with therapy, you'll be able to unload the burden. The first one is guilt. Let's study this with a case study. So there's a person who's 25 years old, ex. This person cheated on their partner in the past, so they double dated. And they broke off with both the partners, but they are feeling very guilty and they feel very stuck at what they did. Because of which they now fear entering a new relationship, thinking, what if I cheat again? It's a loop, a vicious cycle that they have formed. So let's see where the guilt here is. So, what exactly is guilt? It can be a worry. You're unhappy that you did something wrong, which in turn caused harm to another person. This is the bottom line definition of what guilt is. So, over here, the example is cheating on a partner in the past. You can also be arguing with the family member before they are passing, right? So, what can you do by yourself? First question would be again, please keep in mind when you're dealing with anything mental health, anything psychologically, there's a lot of reflection and there's a lot of thinking that is involved. And there's a whole lot of you holding yourself very honestly, and you're holding yourself accountable to your actions. So you're going to ask yourself, what exactly is making you feel guilty? And you're going to do this without judging yourself. And there should not be the I should have, I shouldn't have, I could have, I couldn't have. When this comes in, you're pointing, you're blaming yourself. And over here, when we are trying to deal with guilt, we are already guilty of something. We don't have to judge ourselves even more harshly, especially when we are reviewing it. And you tend to try to forgive yourself by yourself. And if it's not possible to do by yourself, then you come to therapy. And you try to see, what can I learn? What lesson can I learn from this action in my past? How can I better myself to make sure that such an action does not happen again in the future? And if it still isn't enough, Try apologizing if you think that'll make you feel better. This is something that you can do on your own to work with guilt. The next type of emotional baggage is reflection. Another case study to understand. Sorry, it is regret. Another case study to understand. There is a person while 20 years old, they had a heated argument with their close friend and said quite harsh words in anger, and this affected their friendship. This person now feels sad and regretful and can no longer open up in relationships. They are always very careful in the words that they use. So, what is regret? It is a feeling of sadness, basically. A feeling of you did something wrong. It's a mistake that you would have made. And it's also a wish that it could have been different and it could have been better. So that the situation that you're in currently would not have been the same. Over here, it could be in the case study that I mentioned, it was saying those harsh words that now affected the current friendship. Another example would be for not joining friends on a memorable vacation, right? This is also another example. What can you do by yourself when trying to deal with regret? Over here, people say focus on the present, focus on the present. We don't know how. This is why therapy comes in, because for each person, it is different on what to do when focusing on the present. When you do what you can with what you have, where you currently are, that is you taking one step to better a situation for yourself. And you have to also remember everyone is a human. We all make mistakes. And very unfortunately, as humans, we have a tendency of being the worst judge for ourselves. What can we do about it? We learn from our mistakes and then we move forward. Another kind of emotional baggage would be fear of commitment. Let's look at another case study here. Person A, who is 30 years old, they feel lonely and helpless or hopeless about his romantic future since his divorce the year before. They want to be in a committed long term relationship again, but they are afraid they will be hurt. Experiences hurt when thinking of the end of their relationship is the motto that this person lives with. So, what is this fear of commitment? It is this hesitance, it is the difficulty to dedicate oneself to a long term goal in a relationship or the relationship itself. This commitment does not just have to be to a person, it can be even to yourself. This fear of commitment. If we start doing anything to better ourselves, say for example, going to the gym, what if we think I probably won't be able to last in this for 6 months? Like, why start? I'm going to give up anyway. It's fear of commitment there. An example would be a partner rejecting an opportunity like getting married or moving in together, or the person is reluctant to move to the next level to date seriously, right? What can you do here? You write a letter to a person. To this person, if it's in a relationship, you write a letter to this person saying all the things that you wish you'd said when they were around. It's basically just letting it out of you. You need not post it. You need not hit send if it's an email or a message. But as long as it's out in front of you, you tend to feel better. And then you try to find the lesson in the experience. If you've learned something, it's great. It's a lesson learned. It is not pointless. It's a mistake that you have learned from. Right? Moving on to the next type of emotional baggage is inner criticism, something that we are also familiar with. This person is 25 years old. They have numerous accomplishments. It includes a graduate degree from a prestigious college and a partnership at a leading accounting firm. They still feel like an underachiever. They feel that there is something wrong with this person and they are tongue tied, they fumble, and they try to prove themselves every single time. Not happy with what they have so far. There's inner criticism to judge ourselves so harshly and to take such a critical view of our accomplishments, our bodies, our decisions, so much more than what the rest of the world would actually do, and constantly focusing on our so called failures. It really is surprising, don't you think? The things that we critique ourselves for, other people don't really notice, yet we think it's such a big thing. An example is feeling like a failure, not good for anything, because of that one mistake that you made years ago. And if you think about it, we seem to remember everything embarrassing that we did many years ago as well. But it is so difficult for us to pinpoint each and every compliment given to us, each and every good job given to us. But we can remember each and every judgment passed. We can remember each and every mistake, each and every laugh that others would have had at our expense. Our inner critique works at full time. They are at work 24 by 7. But the part of us that accepts compliments for what they are tend to be a little lazy, tend to be a little laid back. So, what can we do by ourselves? Setting healthy boundaries so you don't judge yourselves. Boundaries are not just for other people, boundaries are also certain things that you make sure you don't cross. Because if you think that's going to affect my self respect, my esteem, it's something that even you shouldn't cross. And you tend to calm this critique voice. You do things like meditation practice and you relax. You try to take up things that will calm your mind. What calms a person's mind is very personal to them. What might calm me need not calm you. If for me coloring is the way to go, to just shut off with everything and just color, that need not be what works for you. What works for another person can be yoga. What works for another person can be hitting the gym. Whatever it is, as long as your head is calm, you can slowly train to calm the critique in yourself as well. You silence the voice. Each time the critique opens its mouth, you remind yourself, hey, you know what? You're saying that I haven't accomplished this, but look at what I have accomplished. And you even take into account the small achievements. It really isn't the, oh, I got 100% in this subject. Oh, I'm the best employee in the company. It's not that. It's, oh, I got 8 hours of sleep. That's fantastic for my physical health for the day. I've been able to go on a walk. I could maintain this for a whole week. I ate 3 meals a day. We need to start celebrating our small achievements if they have been problems in the past. And when we state our goals out loud, we can also keep track of how much we have accomplished of said goals. And another type of emotional baggage, shame. Let's again look at a case study. Person R, who's 22 years old. They made a mistake in the past, and this mistake led to someone else being hurt. Now, this person feels unworthy of love and affection because they hurt another person. They feel like they are bad, flawed, and so avoids people and interactions because they hurt someone once. It is shame is this, it's a very painful feeling. It's a very painful experience when you yourself believe that we are flawed. We are no longer worthy of love. We don't feel like we are worthy of being a part of another person's life. We don't belong to anyone. And it's something that we put on ourselves more than others do on us. So an example over here would be to replay past experiences and avoiding similar situations. Feeling like a horrible person for having an unkind thought, right? What can we do in such a situation? First thing would be to allow yourself to acknowledge that this happened, right? We did it, it is out there now. And this acknowledgement, and we might not have meant to do it as well. It must have been an innocent mistake, or we might have meant to do a little bit of it, right? But then again, we acknowledge that this is what we did at that time. We couldn't do anything else but this. And this acknowledgement is the first step. And then while you're acknowledging what you have done, also cultivate self-compassion. And again, remember, we are all humans and there is nothing wrong with making mistakes. Unfortunately, sometimes the mistakes that we make hurt another person, we apologize for it. We try to better ourselves for it. For how long are we going to keep blaming ourselves for a mistake that happened and hurt another person months ago, years ago? For how long are we going to be stuck in it? Remember, we are humans. We make mistakes, but we are not our mistakes. Let's. Oh, did someone raise their hand?
Yeah, Liz, we have some questions in the chat box. Zainab asks, is it like inferiority complex?
Is
Zainab,
what like
yeah.
inferiority complex?
Could you elaborate, Zainab? And while you elaborate, Farheen has asked, aren't shame and guilt almost similar?
Okay, but could the person who asked about the inferiority complex explain, please?
She has typed in, she meant the point about shame, not feeling worthy of love and affection. Is that like inferiority complex?
Again, all of these terms that we are using over here, they have slight differences, but they are all part of each other, so to speak. We can say that shame can be a part of an inferiority complex, but complex can encompass so much more than shame. Again, this is a very subjective situation. And if, again, it all, like I mentioned earlier, it really depends on the situation. And if the situation is not explained, I will not be able to give a generalized answer to it. Right? So if we could keep this question for later and maybe we can talk about it. But if you feel that you do not want to speak about it now, just know that shame can be a part of inferiority complex, but it is not the whole thing, right? And what was the other question?
It's a similar question. Farheena's asked, aren't shame and guilt almost similar?
Shame and guilt can be, like I mentioned, with inferiority complex. All of these terms, when we tend to use it interchangeably in society, right? Because we feel that it is similar, but the nuances are different. Shame is something that we did, and it's something that we feel bad for doing it, just the doing it part. A guilt is something that we feel bad for doing it for and to another person, if that makes sense. It is a progression. There is shame and then there is guilt as well. First is being sad, or being regretful about the action that is done, and the other is, because of this action, this was the consequence, and I'm so sorry for this. Does this answer your question? I'm hoping that's
Yes, she replied, okay, thanks. That was so insightful.
thank you. If there are no more questions, I shall move on. Okay, I shall move on then. Let's look at the impact on the present situation. Okay, so this is the model that we are following right now. It is the way you think about yourself and how that will lead you to react to stress, and how that affects relationship with others, and how relationship with others will affect physical well-being, which in turn makes you think about yourself a certain way. It's a psych. I will explain with an example. Let me say that I am guilty. I'll take one of the case studies itself. I am very guilty for cheating on my partner in the past. Now, a stress for me would be is if someone is interested in me because of the fact that I cheated on my partner in the past, and now I think I'm a cheat. I won't ever be faithful. So if someone, a good person, comes and says, "Hey, I like you," I might freak out. I might flip out, right? I don't know how to react to the stress, right? And if I freak out, if I go, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't be in a relationship," if that is my reaction, despite knowing that this person is a good person, my relationship with said person is affected now because I know that this person is a very good person and this person likes me. But guess what? What I did in the past, what I think about myself, and led me to react a certain way, saying, "I'm not interested in a relationship right now. I don't see you that way." And now my relationship is lost with this person. And what happens when we are mourning a loss of a relationship or anything? What when we are mourning a loss, even if it hasn't happened, we are mourning the loss of an ideal relationship. It takes a toll on our physical well-being. We we no longer want to feel good about ourselves. We think it's not worth it. It can also go to such an extent where we no longer take care of ourselves. The worst case scenario would be us neglecting our physical self as well. And when we neglect our physical self, this will again affect the way you think about yourself because your thoughts will now go to look at what I have become. Because of that one mistake that I made, I cannot get past it. I react like this. I have destroyed my relationship with others. I have also destroyed me. I am no longer worthy of anything. Look at what I have become. And when you think of look at what you have become, and another situation comes, you're like, who would want to love me? Do you see how the cycle just gets more and more and more vicious? How a innocent, or maybe not an innocent mistake, it must have been done very consciously. But that one mistake and the lack of forgiveness that we have to ourselves for said mistake has led to us, especially in this example, and only in this example, has led to us not believing that we are no longer worthy of love. Or how can anyone love me? Right? I hope that explains this cycle.
I think Shruti has raised her hand.
Oh,
Go ahead, Shruti.
go ahead, Shruti.
She lowered it, I think, by mistake.
All right. Okay. No problem. So I hope you understood the impact it has on our present. This is just one example that I had to give. We can use this across many situations as well. And now let's go to how to deal with emotional baggage. Please take a note of this 5-step procedure. I'll be explaining each thing individually, but I'll just read this out. It is the first step would be to write an honest list of the thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors that weigh you down. Second is to reflect on each item and identify the source of the thought or belief. Third is to find at least one positive in each hurtful experience or situation. Fourth is to create affirmations to foster change and counteract negative thoughts. Fifth is to practice patience and mindfulness. I'll be going through each and every point individually right now. Again, like I mentioned earlier, when we are sitting with ourselves, sit with yourself with the mindset that right now, for my subjective experiences, I'm going to be very objective. I am right now just going to see what has happened in my past for certain situations, and I'm not going to judge it. I'm not sitting here to, there is no one else around me but me. It is just me, and I can be as honest with myself as I have to be, as this requires. So we're going to sit with a pen and a notebook in a quiet space all alone, and we're going to spend some time. It's going to be an uncomfortable 40 minutes, maybe, or 30 minutes. Might be uncomfortable, but this is us facing our thoughts, the thoughts that we try to hush usually. And we're going to be very honest, and we're going to write down whatever thoughts and beliefs and behaviors that are weighing us down. We're just going to write it down. That is going to be your step one if you want to deal with emotional baggage. Step two, once you've written it down, right? You've just written down a list of ideas and thoughts. Now you're going to reflect on each and every item that you've written down, and you're going to identify what experience led me to develop such a behavior? What led me to think such a way? For this, you're going to have to go back and dig deeper and deeper and deeper into your past, because it might be very difficult to pinpoint when I started doing it. And it must be because we've been quieting certain voices that were uncomfortable for us for a long time. For this, I would actually recommend taking the help of a professional, because Like I mentioned the word professional, we are professionally trained to help people go through things that they really don't want to go through but have to go through, right? You're going to travel back in time and you're going to see where you picked up these items, and you're going to acknowledge the painful memories, because we quieten these thought voices in our head for a reason. They were painful. So now we're going to acknowledge that, hey, this hurt me then, but we're not going to wallow in them. And you're going to write it down, and we're going to move to step three. We're going to try to find at least one positive in each hurtful experience or situation. And this is going to be very difficult for us to hear, even. Like, how dare some person come to me and tell me you're going to try to find a positive in something that hurt me too bad? You're going to do it for yourself. You're not going to do it for anyone else. Something you're going to do for yourself to help you move on from the hurt. We're going to look for the silver cloud lining in your own cloud. You're going to look for the good in the past, which will help reclaim your power so you are no longer confined to the certain behavior, to the certain emotional baggage that you're trying to get rid of for your future relationships, for your future self. And remember, you're no longer a victim. Emphasis on no longer. We're not going to blame ourselves that we succumbed to this for so long. We're gonna we're gonna embrace the fact that we no longer have to be a victim, and we can decide what to take from that experience for yourself. Step four is to create affirmations to foster change and counteract negative thoughts. Just because you have acknowledged that this happened doesn't, and you're taking the first step to bettering yourself, does not mean that negative thoughts will stop coming. They will come because they are thoughts, and we do not have absolute control over thoughts. So we're going to let the thought through, let it come out, no problem. Don't suppress it. But we're going to have to create affirmations that we're going to have to consciously put in place every time a negative thought comes up. So you're going to take the positives from that you found from step three, and you're going to turn them into affirmations or statements of intent, so that there is an emphasis that is put on positive future behavior, and this is what will free you from the past. Step five is very important, and it's surprisingly, this is where people tend to fail when it comes to mental health, the patience part of it. We are so ready to do whatever was said so far, but for how long? How much longer is this going to take? To that, I have a question. For how long have you lived with this emotional baggage? If you've lived with it for a long time, why aren't you willing to give yourself at least that much time to get better? Like it's written over here, it takes time to change habits. And our thoughts, our beliefs, our behaviors that we have cultivated over the years have almost become a habit for us. It's a very unconscious thing now. So if we have to change it, you have to give it time. Because these habits that I'm talking about over here, the emotional baggage, it is not something that is giving you happiness. They are rooted in deep fears, they are rooted in deep hurts. So for that to change into peace, to change into awareness, into acceptance, you're going to have to give yourself that time. You're going to have to be patient with yourself. There might be times when you go through a relapse, and it is okay, because you now know that you can take yourself out of it. So you check in with yourself regularly. You use journaling, whatever it is that you use to keep yourself accountable, your diary, however you keep yourself accountable. Check in with yourself and be very, very patient with yourself. And then, of course, therapy will help.
Liz, someone's asked to see step four again.
Okay, that's why I put this here again. The step four is mentioned over here. Y'all can take y'all can take note of these steps. I can keep it on the screen for a good minute if you need to take note of these steps.
Shruti has raised her hand. Shruti, do you have something to say?
Yeah, can you please explain step 4 and step 5 a more elaborative way, because that's the most important and difficult I find to implicate.
Again, yes, of course, I can explain that. But just keep in mind, everyone's situation is very, very different. So, what I say in a very general manner, you might not be able to relate to. And if you cannot relate to, that's because you have a backstory that I do not know right now, right? Which is why I said therapy will help. So, whenever, like I mentioned earlier, step four is to create affirmations to foster change and to counteract negative thoughts, like I mentioned. And step five is to practice patience and mindfulness. So, our thoughts and our beliefs and our behaviors, we have cultivated them over the years, right? It is not one day we wake up and we very unconsciously react to different situations in the same way. It has been so for a long time. We have reacted or we have responded or we have gone through certain things that make us react to whatever we are reacting to in the present. So, that is a habit. And these negative thoughts that we have so far in our lives, that has also become a habit. Let's take the example of the cheating person. They would have cheated maybe years ago, but this fear, this hesitance that they have towards going through a new relationship, saying that I'll probably cheat on them again, I'll cheat on this person as well. If they have cheated years ago and they are still thinking the same thing, they are thinking bad about themselves and they are hesitating to be a part of a relationship because of this negative thought that they're going to cheat again and they don't want to hurt the other person. It has become a habit, it has become an unconscious thought that immediately strikes them the minute they see another person is interested in them or they are interested in this said person. So what we're going to have to do over here is, again, this is just an example that I gave. So whenever, and these negative thoughts, they come in very automatically. So if we are going to take ourselves accountable, if we are going to try to take our lives, try to be the master of our lives, we're going to have certain things prepared for these automatic negative thoughts that come into our head. And when these negative thoughts come into our head, we can't stop a thought from coming. That has to play out. And these negative thoughts are going to be played out very automatically. But the positives that you can find, that is part of step three, like when you're looking for a positive in each hurtful experience or situation, the positive that we find, we're going to have to create affirmations for ourselves. This is a lesson that I learned then. I have learned this lesson. I no longer will do it. I know where I went wrong. I won't do it again. These affirmations that we are going to make, we are going to have to say it out loud consciously to counteract the negative thoughts that come automatically. And when we say these thoughts out, these affirmations out very consciously, we will then have the confidence to take action to foster change. Does this make sense? Does step four make sense now? Again, please know that your situation might be very different. So, and I won't be able to help you in your situation right now because this is a workshop for many people. But does this make sense? Can you apply this to your situation right now? If you can't, we can definitely have like a one-on-one session later. And the fifth step would be to be very patient with yourself, because these habits were cultivated over the years, these negative habits. And if you want to break a pattern, you can't break a pattern overnight. Give yourself at least half the amount of time that it took for you to make it a habit. Be kind enough to give yourself that much time. And it is okay to fail in the meantime. You will pick yourself up. You have the confidence that you will pick yourself up. But be kind enough to be patient with yourself. And be very mindful about the actions that you're doing right now, because now you're trying to take charge of your life. So every action is you're trying to be very conscious about it. So be very mindful and patient at the same time with yourself. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. Lots of thumbs up. We also have a question in the chat box, and Dvijapriya has raised her hand. So we'll go with Harshika's question first and then back to you, Dvijapriya. Harshika's question is, what if your defense mechanism is forgetting things that hurt you?
Again, over here, if defense mechanism comes into place, I'm so sorry. Who was the person that asked the question? Who was the person that asked the question?
Harshika.
Harshika. So if this is your defense mechanism, I will not be able to take it in a public setting. This, again, like I said, defense mechanism. Everything that we do to protect ourselves, it is there for a reason because we have gone through certain experiences and they're very personal. We would be able to do this in a one-on-one session. I understand, and I would rather not discuss extremely personal things in public, just for your own privacy's sake. I hope that answers your question. Is there anyone else?
Yeah, Dvijapriya has raised her hand. Dvijapriya, please go ahead.
Hello?
Hello, Vijaypriya? I'm afraid we can't hear you.
Hello?
Yes,
Yes, we
Can
can.
you hear me?
yes, I can hear you now.
Hello?
Yes, Vijaypriya, we can hear you.
Okay, can you show me the self tip of the fear of commitment?
Can we do that a little later once all the questions are asked so that everyone else can get their questions answered and then we can I will take it back there for sure, but just once all the questions are asked so that is okay with you.
Hello, can you please repeat?
If it is okay with you, I can show it to you once all the questions have been answered. If you can wait back, I
Okay,
can show it.
yes.
Thank you.
We have two more questions, three more questions in the chat box. Farheen has said, I don't remember much about my past. In that case, how would I be able to identify the source and reflect?
Again, Fareen, this is again a very personal thing to say, and I would rather not delve deep into this right now with an audience in place. So if you could get in touch with me. Thing is, defense mechanisms are there in place to protect us, and defense mechanisms can be probed as well. Again, they have to be probed in private because certain things might be very painful to remember. So right now, I will not be able to answer, but slowly with therapy, we can slowly unwind and we will be able to find answers. I hope that answers your question. Is there any other question?
Yes. Aarti has asked, after a certain point of avoiding emotions and guilt, regret, it starts haunting. It's like I'm the only one who's at fault because I was the only one who was not able to face the problem.
Yes. It. I'm just going to read the statement myself, please.
Yeah.
This is a very. It must be a very painful situation that you're in, Aarti. Again, like I mentioned, there is certain things that I can tell in general and certain things that are very personal to you, right? So I would, again, over here as well, I would recommend therapy to understand your situation as a whole rather than just see one part of you over here. I hope that is okay. So, I hope I answered, but it must be very, very painful that you're going through. I'm sorry you're going through that. Is there any other question?
Zainab has asked how to be more mindful.
How to be more mindful would be to be very aware of the choice of the words that you're going to make, very aware of your actions, very aware of what actions you do or what behaviors you do affect yourself and affect another person. That is what being mindful is. It is not something that you achieve overnight. It is something that you have to work on tirelessly for a long period of time for it to be an unconscious process to you. And please, over here as well, even in mindfulness, be patient with yourself that you might slip at times. But even if you slip, you know that you can pick yourself back. Mindfulness is just being very, very aware of what actions you do, what behavior you do, what words you use can affect you, the relationship, or another person or thing. I hope that answers you.
We have another question from Shruti. Like we have discussed, the intensity of emotive response vary for every individual, but some people gets emotional response for every minute thing. Is it possible for them to develop resilience by practice, or is it just possible? Is it just possible, or they would be sensitive for their entire life?
This wanting to change how sensitive you are, it really depends on the person themselves. It also depends on how much you want to do something, right? We say, and also keep in mind that if certain things hurt you and you've tried rationalizing why you're getting hurt, and if you have a valid reason for it, you we as humans, we will get hurt. What hurts me need not hurt you. The same way what hurts you need not hurt me. But doesn't mean that they're going to keep getting hurt all their life. Resilience can be built. Right? It's a very delicate thing, this hurt and resilience. Just because I'm hurt all my life does not mean that I'm no longer going to be hurt by anything. Just because I've been sensitive all my life need not mean that I'm going to be sensitive for the rest of my life. Again, it all depends on what the person is willing to work on, how much the person is willing to work on, and how much the person is willing to continue working on. Because this working on resilience, working on letting things not affect you to a great extent, it is going to take time. And it is going to take patience, and it's also going to take a professional eye to help. I hope this answers your question. Are there any more questions? Because,
No other questions.
okay then. If there are no more questions, thank you everyone for joining today's workshop. It is 1 o'clock, and it's great that they are able to close the workshop at 1 o'clock itself. Thank you so much for taking out the time on a Saturday to come and attend a workshop. And if you need any help, you have Yadvi's and mine, our details are on the group, and you can get in touch with us at any time, and we'll guide you how best to take forward. Thank you very much for today, everyone. Have a good day. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone. I'll be ending the meeting now.